Okay, we're going to get started, or else we won't finish. My name's Phil Singleton. I'm from the University of London Computer Centre. I'm an associate trainer here, but I'm facilitating this particular session. We're here to see two speakers. The first one is Mark Stubbs from the Manchester Metropolitan University, and the second is Steve Copin and his colleagues from the University of Kent. So are you all in the right room? Good. It's been videoed, it's been broadcast, so we've got 30 minutes for the presenters, questions at the end, and we've got to make sure that we capture all the sound on here, so that's why I'm holding the microphone. So, Mark, over to you.
It's actually, you're going to get 3 for the price of 1, which is why I'm holding the mic and not wearing it. Thanks very much for attending. The idea of the talk today is to very briefly take you through some of the work that we've been doing in partnership with a number of other companies to deliver our Moodle implementation at MMU. I'll pass you over to my boss now, Phil Range, who'll tell you a little bit more.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Yes, I'm Phil Range. I'm Director of Learning and Research Information Services, and as well as Mark, there are quite a few of his colleagues also in the room as well. So if you want the real story, you can always ask them. So I'm going to start off and just try and put what we've done in an institutional context. And then Mark will give you the detail, which I'm sure you're all interested in here. And finally, our third presenter, Hugh from Onbiel, is also going to do a show all the technology that he's got with him, I think. So you'll probably not let him get out the door with that. So first of all, a little bit about the institutional context. Okay, so really this was part of and is part of a big change program called Equal. And I usually, when I'm at MMU, I always test my colleagues to find out whether they know what Equal actually stands for. They're shaking their heads at the back. But it actually stands for Enhancing the Quality, I've got it wrong as well, Enhancing Quality and Assessment for Learning. So like a lot of these things, I think the idea came first and the acronym came later, and maybe it doesn't quite work. But there are 4 parts to it, as you can see there, and together you'll pretty much see it's a pretty major transformation program. And if you just look at the outcomes at the bottom there, you'll see that actually what it means is every single undergraduate course and module is being written. Not in 1 year, that was too much even for MMU, but all the first year modules have been rewritten now and go live in September 2011. And just to give you an idea of that, we used to typically have 6 modules in a year. Now we've got 4. Same number of credits, different number of modules. So that's a big curriculum transformation. Alongside that, lots of the administrative systems and business processes are changed, and bringing together the new VLE, Moodle, which is why we're here, and enhancing our web and our mobile provision, which is why our colleagues over there are here as well, and also streamlining the quality processes. So if you work in universities, and I know a lot of you do, but not necessarily, you'll know there's a huge amount of work involved in all of those sorts of things. The little icons at the bottom, just put it into context, the sort of purpley coloured and the brownish or orange coloured document there. 2 of our sort of threshold standards, one around our student experience and one around our learning approach. So, how did this fit in, and what's it got to do with learning technology, you might always say? Because as well as Equal, and just before it, we did a major review of our learning technologies. And these are some of the things that we wanted to deliver. So that's seamless, personalised access to learning, to administrative information, all that often you think really simple stuff like we want to know when to hand in our assignments and so on. All that sort of stuff came in as one part of our learning technology review, as well as the complicated things like what do we do about rich media and all those sorts of things. And quite rightly, when we did this, everyone said, actually, this is an integral part of learning and teaching here at MMU. So we put it together with an Equal, and that project is managed throughout as a whole with really high-level board. So the program has a program board. It's led by one of our 2 deputy vice chancellors for student experience. I'm on it, and you might not have guessed from the title, but as well as learning research technologies, I have responsibility for ICT services and for libraries as well. We have 2 deans and pro vice chancellors on there, one leading the curriculum side and one who's an interesting PVC without portfolio. And she came in quite late, but what she's really done is spent huge amounts of time out in the faculties working with the academic colleagues there and persuading them that they should do things in a different ways, most of which is timetabling at the moment, but that's another story for another day. We reviewed our choice of learning technologies, and if you want to go there, you can actually see the blog about the thinking process that we went through, why we ended up with the choices that we've come up, and those are the choices there. A number, Moodle, not surprisingly here, Aquella, and we've got Aquella colleagues here somewhere, I think. There you go, right at the back, okay. Thales Aspire from the library side, and Campus M. So a lot of boring legal work in terms of 3-way contracts, but and did have the grey hairs to prove it. But that was really important. I think everyone involved in that process said actually it was a lot of hard work, but it was really, really important. And also looking at an agile approach, really quick way to do things, and Mark will tell you a lot more about those in just 1 minute. I suppose my view is when it's my Aquella quote, which I always like me saying is, because when people say to me, what are you doing about your VLE? And we say Moodle, I said, well, actually, it's Moodle in Aquella, a repository. And in many ways, I see the repository is almost more important than the VLE. So, without further ado, that hopefully puts it in context to you. I'll pass it across to Mark, who'll give you some of the detail.
Okay. So you sort of get the impression that there's a bit of a challenge here. Every single first-year module is being rewritten. We're trying to deliver on a promise of an enhanced VLE, and a lot of the work that went into that review was talking to students about what they wanted. And we've taken, I mean, for those of you who know me, you have sort of creative, pragmatic, would perhaps be words that you might use. We've taken that sort of approach. We've listened to what the students are saying, and we've targeted some of the things that are barriers at the moment. So things like the fact that students need to know when their work's due in, where they're meant to be from 1 minute to the next. They're sort of practical, pragmatic things, and we want to deliver them and make them easy to get to. So, this is our distributed VLE architecture. If you look on the left, as you can see it, there are things that we have in-house. We have our student record system in-house. We have our timetabling system in-house. We have an in-house portal based on SharePoint. But we've partnered with specialists to deliver a full service. So we're hosting, down at ULCC, Moodle. We're hosting Aquella. We've partnered with specialists in those companies to find the best ways to integrate them together and with our corporate systems. We've gone with Thales Aspire for our reading lists, our resource lists, I should say, because they're richer than just reading. And that too is public and hosted. And we use the same feeds from our student record systems about the module codes to create reading lists, so we can aggregate all this stuff back together. We've done work with our partners to think in particular about how to get useful things out of Moodle and make them available where students need to see them, whether that's on their mobile devices, whether it's on the SharePoint portal alongside the feed from finance and all those other things that students typically need. So there's a lot of thought gone into this distributed architecture, but there's a lot of behind the scenes work gone into things like legal contracts to make sure that if you're not hosting it yourself, that you've got the right arrangements in place with the right partners to get the service and get those extra customization integration things in there. So we spent quite a lot of time getting those contracts right. I guess at the heart of our ability to join up all those disparate bits is the fact that we've driven through a consistent module numbering system. Now, when we speak to some other institutions, they say, yeah, that makes complete sense, but it would take us forever to get that in every single system. But because this has been part of the Equal initiative, where we've had the clout, effectively, to look at quality processes, alongside system admin, alongside business processes of enrolment and all those different bits of the puzzle, we've been able to go for a consistent approach that enables Moodle to effectively be an aggregator or a mashup of really good stuff that sits around all sorts of specialist systems within the institution. Last summer we sat down with all our e-learning champions and we looked at the things that we could reasonably expect every student to get at a module or at a program level. We talked about those things in terms of threshold content. It should be reasonable for a student to find it very easy to get their hand-in dates, to get their timetable, to get the resource list for the module. So we've looked at ways to achieve that through this consistent naming convention. And just as Grania said this morning, it's not about the technology. You've got to be investing simultaneously in the skills and the people in order to be able to use that technology effectively. So a little word on there that says 7 ELSOs, e-learning support officers, 1 per faculty. So we've looked at a completely integrated approach of investing in the technology and in the staff development and the people to pull this off. But from a technical perspective, effectively we've used tagging. We call modules units at MMU. It's not that exciting, but by using this consistent naming convention, we can pull in the timetable from Scientia, the hand-in dates and the marks from the student record system, the podcasts that we've got on our Apple podcast producer, the resource lists from Aspire, the past papers that we've put into Aquella, and for the scanned copyright license agreement materials, when we tag it with a module code, we've got a very nice feed that we've worked together with partners from Aquella on that makes sure that that tag means something. It means how many students were enrolled on that module, so we can do an automated return to the copyright license authority saying that many students have used that module content. So this is the kind of joined-up approach that we've pursued. We've done it through a system of web services. We've been very fortunate in working closely with partners from the JISC and others who'll be presenting later on this kind of service-oriented approach where we have www.mmu, which is the sort of public website. We have my.mmu that staff and students log into, and that's a personalised SharePoint portal, or it might be a mobile portal, as we'll see in a moment. But we've also got, and we're working towards, APIs.mmu, which is a series of web services that enable us to go and get the content, wherever it may live, from all these disparate systems, aggregate it and make it available where it's needed, whether that's on our SharePoint portal, whether it's in Moodle, whether it's in Campus M. But we can use those web services to make that content available. So it very much is the service-oriented architecture type approach that colleagues in JISC and others have been talking about for some time. If I just zoom in on one of those web services for a minute, I'll just give you a taste of how it works with those different bits of the puzzle. On Talis Aspire, all our resource lists are tagged with the module code, and they're public. So we can get a feed of those things by querying on module code. We can go across to Aquella using the SOAP web services that Aquella operates to query by module code for the content that's relevant. We can go to Apple's podcast producer, query for the content that's relevant for that module, and then aggregate the lot together and make it available either as a custom block in Moodle or wherever else we need to present it. So people can drill down. One of the other things that we've done alongside this is a solid policy about how resource lists should be communicated to students. So we've talked about things with library colleagues in terms of these are the items to buy, these are the items that are core essential reading, and this is further reading. Because part of our consultation work with students is it's really confusing. Some people give us 200 items on a list, we don't know what it means, we don't know which ones to buy. So we've been through this equal process, thinking through what are our threshold standards, what can students reasonably expect us to deliver, and we've shaped our technology to reinforce those things. So if you click on the to buy, it'll drop down and there are the 3 items that have been recommended to buy. If you go for essential, it will actually take you to a whole range of resources. Some could be in Equella, some could be on the web, some could be in the library. But it's all aggregated, brought together, and when a student logs into Moodle, Moodle knows who the student is. Each area within Moodle has been created with the module code. Take those things across, go and get me all the content from those things, scoop it up and make it a click away from the student. So that's the approach that we're taking. And it's a very pragmatic approach. We're trying to focus on reducing the barriers to learning and also investing in the staff development so then we can do the more interesting things about using the pedagogy, using the technology effectively to deliver more exciting forms of learning. But first, we're making sure there are no barriers, no excuses not to engage. One of the things that is quite exciting about working in this area and finding the right partners is the search for content out of Moodle that you can use on whatever platform is a pretty common thing to want to do. So by working with colleagues in the room from ULCC, colleagues from ONBIL about what are the things we need out of Moodle? Well, we need single sign-on, we need course news, we need the events feed out of Moodle, and we need to be able to surface it and use it wherever. I need it because I currently need to show it in our SharePoint portal so that when a student logs into there, alongside details of finance and library and all those other things,